Hi, everyone. Welcome to this very exciting session that we're going to have with Michelle, and she's going to talk us through how do we prepare for those virtual interviews, and something that's very, very relevant. Many of us have been through it in the last few months, so I look forward to hearing some tips from her. And of course, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the feed and ask them to Michelle towards the end of the session. All yours, Michelle.
Hi, thanks, Syra. Thank you, everybody, for spending your lunch hour with me. Well, if you're on the East Coast, I suppose. Let me get up my presentation here for you all to see. All right, so I'm Michelle Lentz. Later on, you'll see me in the day possibly sitting in Brandon Carson's chair. So it'll say Brandon Carson, but it'll have my name because I'll be filling in for him in a couple spots as a host, though. So I've been all around this conference. You'll see me here and there. I have been working with people recently on tips and tricks for being your virtual best in interviews. And not only interviews, really, I've been working with people on pre-recorded Zoom videos, how to do your best when you're on video like we are right now. Now, today, it's interesting. I was freaking out this morning because my lighting is awful in here today. And normally it's a lot better. But that just goes to show you can't always depend on what you've got. I depend a lot on natural light coming in from my left, and it's pouring rain. So there is not a lot of light. So with that, let's get going. You can find more in-depth resources. Videos, I talked to she's a photographer and videographer. She has a lot of great tips for how to look good in this sort of a situation. So I've got small interviews with her out there, as well as a checklist for things you can reference before you sit down to do any sort of video interview, video, Zoom, video, anything. And then there's actually a tour of our Zoom room here in our house. So you'll get to see that too. Now, the point of this is we want to remove the element of surprise for both you and your interviewer, but mostly for you. So you just don't want to be surprised. You want to download your video application ahead of time, whether it's Zoom, WebEx, Teams. You want to make sure it's installed. You're ready to use it. You don't need any plugins or anything else. You have the right browser ready to go. It works on your Mac as well as your PC or whichever you're choosing to use. You want to test your lighting, as I was just talking about. Test your sound. And you want to be aware of the surroundings. And you actually want to hear yourself and listen to your own voice. So we're going to go through a lot of this. Now, I want to tell you that no matter how prepared you are, things can go wrong. It happens to all of us. This really was me last week. I had a job interview for a cloud company here in Atlanta. I was very excited. Well, I have a Macintosh. I have a Mac, a new MacBook Air, and I love this computer. Well, one, it's running a new chip that it doesn't support a lot of things yet. So the day before, I knew this interview was on Microsoft Teams. I practiced it. I downloaded Microsoft Teams. I practiced it. Everything worked. The video worked. Everything worked. It was beautiful. I was using Chrome because I couldn't use Safari. Doesn't support Safari. So all this was fine. I get on the day of the interview, it would not work because when I logged into their enterprise version of Microsoft Teams, I could not get anything to work. I could not even connect. I switched browsers 3 times. Finally, Brandon comes running in. I'm up here practically in tears. I'm texting the HR person saying, I can't get online. Give me about 5 minutes. I'm running downstairs. Brandon sets up his computer downstairs on his PC. For me, I finally got online. I'm settled. He's bringing me down my notes and things that I have. Everything's fine. I'm trying to breathe. I'm logged in. I'm 5 minutes late at this point. The dog starts barking. We have a very yappy little dachshund. And so when he barks, it's ear pitching. It's just really, it's a sharp pitch. And so that's happening right behind me. So then Brandon has to run in, grab the dog, this is all happening around me as I'm trying to have a job interview. So just to let you know, these things happen. Sometimes it's just all out of your control. So you can prep as much as you want, but just realize sometimes you just have to embrace it and go with it. And honestly, I brought her back around. We had a great conversation. So no, I don't have an answer yet on where that went, but So there you go. It happens to all of us. Let's start out by talking about our lighting. So use what you have. So natural light, as I was saying, normally is pretty darn dependable, depending on where you live. We have a huge window here to my left, and natural light comes pouring in. Now, it's just really gray today, so I don't have as much natural light as I would like coming in. What you really want is to be facing the natural light. That will give you the best lighting on yourself. You can use 2 and 3 point lighting. Right now, I'm actually using 3-point lighting, and this is a little different from what I normally do. So because my natural light's so lacking coming in from here, I also have my door open to this room, and normally this door would be shut. But this way I've got the hallway lighting coming in, and it's actually fairly bright. And then I have a giant ring light, a giant full-size ring light, the kind you see in Best Buy in the middle of the floor kind of ring light, shining down on me from above. And then remember that the time of day may affect your light settings. I was running a meeting this morning, and it was 7 a.m. and my lighting was awful because I forgot no natural light when it's 7 a.m. outside. It was pitch black. So just keep that in mind too. You don't want to use an overhead light. It will bring too much shadow down on your face. The camera I'm using right now actually has on it, and I'm actually just using it not because of the ring light, but because it's a better camera. It's a little webcam that has a ring light built in, and I use that a lot if I'm not in this particular room. We call this the Zoom room, but I in my office, I do use this little built-in webcam ring light kind of thing, and those are pretty cheap. You can get those $30 or $40 on Amazon. So if you do have a ring light, full size like mine or part of your webcam, use it if you can control the settings. So on our giant one here, you can control the settings, and my videographer friend says, take it up to 5,000K. And don't take it above that, but take it to 5,000K and it will give you the best lighting effect. And you want to raise it a little above and in front of you, so the light's coming down on you from in front. And again, natural light's going to be your best bet, but your ring light's your second bet. Now, I love this picture here. This is Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada, on Twitter. What I love about this is he has the perfect setup. So he has his ring light angled perfectly, set up behind his, I think his iMac there. But the other great thing about this is, imagine where his camera is hitting, because his webcam would be built into that monitor. So it's getting him, his flag, the blinds, and a picture behind his desk. And that's it. That's all that it's seeing. Now, from our angle, we're seeing crazy bookshelf and cables everywhere, 2 glasses of what I assume are water, and some other things. And he's actually looking around the corner, who's ever taking the picture here. But that just kind of shows you what real life looks like versus what's on camera. If you could see the sheer amount of cups and things around me right now. But this is a really nice setup with the ring light. So that's just a good example of what you might want to shoot for if you can get one of those little ring lights. Now, back in April, I think, everyone moved to home. Everybody pretty much was suddenly working at home. Everybody suddenly was having to be on camera, and we all realized we all looked really bad on camera. So Tom Ford was interviewed by the New York Times. Maureen Dowd interviewed him, and these are the tips he had to say, and he makes this so easy. He says, raise your computer up. Now, he says slightly higher than your head. I say work it out. I have my computer on a computer stand that angles so that where the camera hits is different. But he uses books. He's like, use what you got. Use books. So you pile it up on books. So you're not looking down at your computer. And that's really the most important thing here. You never want to look down at your camera. So you want to angle the lid down. If the computer's above you and you angle the lid down a little, it's coming in from either at or above where you are. And that's what you want. You don't ever want to be looking down at your camera. You'd rather have your camera looking down at you. From there, use a tall lamp. Now, this is before you can buy a ring light on every corner, which you can right now. Every store sells ring lights. But just get a tall desk lamp and set it up behind your desk. You don't have to have a ring lamp. You can just use a desk lamp and set it up very similar to how that picture of Justin Trudeau had his ring lamp set up. So you're just getting light cascading onto your face from the front. But again, natural light from the front, best bet. And then this is the most interesting thing, and I double checked this with my photographer, videographer friend. Put a piece of white paper or white tablecloth in front of your computer, but not in the frame. So I'm actually sitting at a black desk that we have taped white poster board over because we use this desk specifically for this reason. And that gives you what's called bounce. And it's the light reflecting up into your face. And it just gives your light more of a fill, less shadow. You don't want to be surrounded by shadows when you're in a job interview. So these are really, really easy things you can do. So just think about those. None of those things involve buying anything. You need white paper, books, and a lamp. That's it. That's all Tom Ford's saying you need. And you can just amazingly improve how you're looking, how your interviewer will see you. Now I'm going to go through audio here. Keep outside noise to a minimum. We have in our house, anytime someone comes to the door, the dog barks. So we have a sign outside on air. Don't knock. Don't ring the bell, because we can't have that sort of distraction when one of us is in a meeting or in a Zoom interview or anything. So we do have this outside fairly frequently. The other thing I have, this is from, at least one person out there in the audience will recognize this. This is from the Hollywood Tower Hotel ride at Disney World. But it's a do not disturb sign. And normally this would be on the door and the door closed. And that keeps me from coming in the Zoom room if Brandon is presenting, or Brandon from coming in the Zoom room if I'm presenting. It's just simple, but it keeps people out. And if this is what you have to do to keep your kids and everyone else out of the room, opening the door and wandering in while you're in an interview, this is what you've got to do. So this is a more playful way to do it, but that's how we handle that. Now, microphones. So your computer microphone's probably pretty good. I know on any of my Macs and on I have a PC, an older Lenovo, and even its computer microphone is pretty good. You can't go wrong there, but you are going to pull in a lot of sound from elsewhere. So your sound because that'll pick up your dog downstairs barking or something. Now you're going to be a little better off with a headset that has the microphone attached. And then we use a standalone microphone. This is a Yeti. So we use this, and this is definitely where you're going to get the best sound. So it's just a matter of what you want to invest in. Honestly, those things aren't that expensive, but you can also get a USB headset with a mic, and they're really affordable. So I highly recommend, if you think you're going to be doing a lot of that, if you think I'm out there, I'm on the hunt for a job, I'm going to be doing a lot of video interviews, go ahead and get the headset with the mic if you don't want to invest in the Yeti. Now, you'll know ahead of time of your interview what you're using, whether it's WebEx or Zoom or Teams. And you should be able to go out, practice. You'll open it up, you'll make sure everything works, but you want to set up your sound and your video ahead of time. And you want to just make sure it works. Because here's the thing. What may work in Teams may not work right in Zoom, or it may not be picked up. Your defaults may not be picked up. So you want to just test. I can't stress this enough. Test all this stuff ahead of time. Go in the day before. Go in 2 days before if you have the information. And you don't have to go into their link. Just, download a free copy of Zoom, start a free meeting. You get 45 minutes free. And so just go in, see how you look, and make sure your settings and everything are set correctly. You just don't want to figure out that it's all wrong 10 minutes before your interview. Now, some tips and tricks with audio. So mind your P's and your T's, because they will sound really, you get that sound a lot when you're talking in a mic. And so you need to really just be aware of how you're speaking and enunciate. So we are looking at each other in video. We're watching how each other's speaking and things, but just be aware things translate differently. I'm always shocked when I hear myself played back when I do voiceover and I hear it played back and I'm like, oh, that was really bad. My S's were bad. My T's were bad. So enunciate. Make sure everyone can hear you. We're no longer really face-to-face. I know on my internet connection, for some reason, Zoom's always popping up and saying, your internet connection is unstable. And I think, what are the other people hearing if this is telling me mine is unstable? Turn off all your notifications. Right now, if my Gmail app was on, you'd be hearing tons of ding, 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 but I've got it set on Do Not Disturb. Turn everything off, put Do Not Disturb on if you have that setting on your computer, whatever you can, so that those kinds of things don't come in while you're interviewing. And then the other thing is put your phone on silent and then move it away from your desk, because even on vibrate, if it's sitting next to you on your desk is going to make a bzzz sound and that will get picked up. So just eliminate the noise makers, anything that makes the noise. And then of course, your sign on your door or whatever is oh, and Scott just said, pause updates on your computer before the call. Oh, that is so true. And I have had that happen, not in an interview, but in a meeting. I've been in a Zoom meeting where the computer just decided to go into a Windows update. So be aware that there are all these little things that can just come at you. And I don't want to stress you out because this is all really easy. Put everything on Do Not Disturb. You're good. Turn off anything you're not using, basically. Right now, the only thing I have open is PowerPoint and Chrome for this. And that is it, because I didn't want anything else to interrupt the presentation. So let's talk a little about the camera. And this is my favorite section to talk about. Now, look at your camera. And I know this is so weird, but what happens, think about when you're in a Zoom meeting with everybody. What are you doing? You're looking at who's talking, but here's the thing. On my Zoom meeting, everybody is in one order, but on your Zoom meeting, you are where I am. So everybody's been moved over. Nobody is ever in the same spot. If everybody's looking at everybody else, it's like remember the Brady Bunch? Everybody's looking down at Alice and up at Mom and Dad and over at Cindy, and that's what it starts to look like. So just be aware, especially if you're in a panel interview or something on camera, just look straight ahead. Look at your camera if it's not too high up. If not, just look straight ahead. Don't look at yourself talking. Don't look at all the other people, because then you are going to be, the Brady Bunch kind of thing, everybody looking every which way. So be aware of that. You always want to look like you're paying attention, and you'll look like you're paying attention if you're looking straight ahead. It's so hard. So what to wear? Clothing as a distraction here. So I'm in a solid color right now, very specifically, because I've now gone out and invested in a lot of solid color shirts. And in this image, I've got both men's clothes in one side and women's on the right. And so the white shirt you see in that photo is actually a pink men's shirt. It's a light pink men's shirt, and that's what color can do. So just be aware that what you see in your color may not be what's actually coming through on the camera. The shirt next to that has a very tiny little print. I wouldn't recommend tiny prints that repeat. I'd recommend polka dots, anything small and repetitive. I had leopard print on one day on camera. Don't do that. The other day I had just a woven sweater on, and it looked like a 3D art print where you had to sort of go find out what's really behind that image. Well, it was just a plain pink woven sweater. So be aware of how your clothing looks on camera. The larger print that I have in the other photo, the red shirt with the larger print, that's okay. It's not as distracting, but your solid color is always going to be your best bet. You don't want people to look at your clothing and not you. Turn off your ceiling fan. It makes your camera and everything else work harder. So if you're hot, turn on your air conditioning, but turn off your ceiling fan. It makes your bandwidth work. It makes everything work harder. Turn it off. Also, flyaways, which is great if you're trying to get a really great, like Beyonce kind of thing going on with the hair. But if you don't want to be Beyonce, turn off your ceiling fan. Self-awareness. Now we're getting into my favorite part of this whole presentation. So where are you sitting? How are you sitting? And how are others seeing you? Consider all of this. So comfy furniture. This is me on a couch and me on a bed. Please do not think that because you have a white couch with a white wall that it won't look like you're sitting on a couch for a job interview. It will. And even if you're not slumped down like I am here, it will still look like you're on a comfy couch. And you don't want to look like you're on a comfy couch. The nose pose. I cannot stress this enough. Now, I also call this I think I need my glasses pose. Notice that I'm looking down at my camera, and this is what I was talking about earlier. Don't look down at your camera because people can see up your nose and they see under your chin. And these are not the parts they want to see of you. They want to see your eyes and your mouth and everything you're saying and understand your expressive face. Now, just to show you that royal people do this too. This is Prince William doing a bit of a nose pose, the royal nose pose, as I called it, in an interview with, I think, Good Morning America or something. And so, yeah, he is leaning over. We're getting a good view of his chin and his nose. So just, again, go back to the Tom Ford method. Lift up your camera, lean it down so it's looking down at you. Now, this is the Bobble Head. This one is a real pet peeve of mine. People will they're not too... It's just the opposite of the nose pose, really, because we're just getting from the neck up. And I have seen CLOs do presentations where you just see this, and I'm baffled. I'm just baffled because I'm thinking you can see yourself on camera. Don't you understand? We want to see how expressive you are. We don't just want to see you from the top of your chin up. So again, be aware. Look at yourself on camera the day before. Practice this. Get all your settings ready to go. Your background. A lot of insight can be seen in a person's background. You can learn a lot about people. You cannot tell me that when you're watching the news or any other show where someone's on camera, you're not going, oh, look at that in their bookcase. And I wonder what that is. And it's become a thing. So there's actually a Twitter account called Rate My Skype Room. And I've pulled a couple of these. And this is another pet peeve of mine, this guy on the left. Right? The whole wall hanging is right behind his head. Now, I was talking to, of all things, a virtual producer the other day. She had this beautiful, beautiful background, and it was snowy outside. It was just like lives in all glass. It was gorgeous. But behind her head was a giant mirror that had things sticking out about all around. So it looked like the back of her head was just thorns sticking out everywhere. And it was so distracting. So be aware of what's directly behind you. This Daniel Dale CNN guy here, he has crazy looking blinds. So if you have blinds and they're like that, open the window. You want the natural light anyway, right? And so just things like that. He's got cords coming out of the wall. There's a TV behind him, I think, and the cords are hanging down out of the wall. And the comment is those cords could kill somebody. So people are going to notice things like that. Here we've got two really good ones. This is Allie Raceman, who I think was a gymnast. Plain white walls, but then they're set up there's lovely prints behind her and more solid. There's the flowers there to give a color accent. I'm not saying go out and create a Zoom room. We have a guest room currently. We're in COVID, so no guests. So we've turned it into our Zoom room. We have two things on the wall, neither directly behind our head. And again, here we have someone, this James Fallows from The Atlantic. He great bookshelves behind him, right? Now, just be careful with bookshelves. I was watching TV one day and I saw somebody with bookshelves and I thought, I know that book. And I took a picture of it and then zoomed in on my phone just so I could see what book it was. So people will be looking at your books. I heard Brandon the other day ask someone, I think I see a book back there on your bookshelf. What is that? So this is where we are. We're snooping into people's homes. Be aware of what you've got behind you and around you. Virtual backgrounds and filters. I don't care what you do for your meetings at work, but if you're having a job interview, don't do it. Clean up your space around you. Find some place that looks good. Don't do a virtual background and filter unless you own a green screen, and then I still wouldn't do it for something like that. In Zoom, you can see that it actually does, You can see the boosting, right? around me as I move my hands. Right. You see, there's pure ghosting here. And so anytime you move, anytime you talk with your hands, it becomes very, very obvious you're in the virtual background. And it just doesn't look natural. So, and again, so when you're moving your hands and things, when you move your face, when you move anything, the whole background kind of has to rejigger itself. So just be aware of that. It also uses a lot of bandwidth. Finally, action, right? We're almost ready to go here. Try not to use a script. You will sound scripted. I always have to have notes, and I have to have my questions. So I've jerry-rigged. I took a, this is an iPad stand. There's a bunch of file folders. And I can stand this right next to my computer, and it's so close to my computer, I hardly look. I can just glance at it. It's not going to look like a big deal if I'm just glancing over for a minute to see what's on it, to remind myself, right? So there are ways to do it, but keep them eye level so you're not looking down, you're not really looking off, you're just glancing, right? Your voice. And this is the most important. I think there was a voiceover artist who spoke here at this session yesterday, at this conference yesterday. And your voice is so important. Miles Davis, who played the trumpet, said the greatest sound in the world is the human voice. So keep engagement in your voice. Now, keep your conversation relevant. Capture their attention. And you can really do that with your voice. And then put all your engagement in your voice, because you can somewhat see that I'm talking with my hands, but not completely, because believe me, there's a whole lot more talking with my hands going on here that you can't see. I'm a very expressive talker. So I've really had to shift a lot of that to my voice in the last year. So keep that in mind. Now, really quickly, let's go through this. This is me being a little bored.
The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog.
Right? So surprised, smiling.
The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog.
He leaped.
The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog.
So you can do a lot with your voice. You would know what I was thinking without even having seen me with all four of those examples.
The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog.
And then there's surprise.
The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog.
There we go. All right. Sorry about that. That was a little PowerPoint snafu there with how it's running in show mode with Air Meet. So again, you cannot always predict the technical difficulties. How do you get to Carnegie Hall? Well, you practice. And for us, Carnegie Hall is that job we've always wanted. So